Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and forgive me if I go into some coughing spurts. I am probably sick, but we decided to go on about these four films that have something to do with the direction of Joe Sherlock. So,
Oh yeah,
the first three short films are actually in this three-film compilation called Joe's Garage. Why don't you show us your copy, Boris? And welcome to the show once again. And we're both in the same situation.
yeah. I actually have flu. I'm recovering still, so I apologize to you and to everyone who is watching if I cough a lot during this conversation. I'm sorry, but yeah. Here is my DVD copy of the trilogy you mentioned. These are some early horror shorts by Joe Sherlock called Dimension of Blood, Monster in the Garage, and Crimson Heather. Uh,
Alrighty, so the first one that we're going to talk about is Dimension of Blood, which is actually Joe Sherlock's first short film that we know of.
yeah.
And that was filmed in 1996. And it starred a Thomas Mobius, uh, who is played by Tom Schafer, um, who
Yes.
who evidently has gotten some crates or something of that nature that he does not know about. So he instructs his assistant Rachel, which I think he seems to have some kind of feelings towards, who is played by Brenda Boutner. Um, but let me, before we begin again on that note, let me just do a little synopsis that IMDb has for us about this film. So Dr. Thomas Mobius is curious about some strange life forms brought into his lab for study. He enlists the aid of Rachel Roundtree to uncover their origins. Soon bodies are dropping around them as they uncover government conspiracy and hints of other dimensional invasion. The man in black keeps
Uh,
appearing and leaving a bloody trail in his wake. Can Mobius and Rachel find out the secret before it's too late?
yeah.
So, um, we have the Dr. Mobius, who evidently he seems like he's very vocal. Uh, Also, he seems to be a very nervous individual. um,
yeah.
but he gets some stuff sent to his lab that he's questioning or questionable about. So he sends his assistant Rachel to figure out where they came from, and he goes and meets up with a friend of his. His friend doesn't show, and he starts getting bugged by these uh, men in black looking individuals that look like they're from like the FBI, but he finds out they're from a totally different um, company, evidently. So, what was your first reaction to this short film?
Well, I have to say there was one issue I had with this short film. Well, as you know, I am not a native English speaker, and sometimes I struggle to distinguish words in the spoken language. And in this short film, the sound quality was kind of not like in Joe Sherlock's newer movies. So I was struggling to distinguish the conversation between characters, but as far as I as far as I understood and found out from discussing the movie with Joe later on, it was a pretty interesting story, pretty creative regarding the fact it was his first movie. I mean, if we take into account that he had not had any previous experiences as a filmmaker, this was actually pretty good.
Well, the friend that the friend that Tom Mobius went to go and meet up with. He was actually Dale Wilson, as let's see, his friend that he was going to meet up with was by the name of Jeff, if I remember correctly, or
Uh, I think it was Joseph. They were referring
Joseph.
to him as Joe. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Joe, who was played by Dale Wilson at
Dale.
the time,
Yes, yes.
which I'm noticing that IMDb doesn't have a total uh,
Oh,
uh,
well, then you
casting.
will fix it, right?
Yep, I will fix it later. But in any case, yeah. So he goes missing, and then we find out that later that he's actually been killed. And there is a creature that is left in the wake to give him a package of some sort later on, and they find out that well, Thomas Mobius finds out that there is an alien that was left behind, um, and his friend had stumbled onto the fact that they were an alien, and this U what is the UDC or U
EIU, if I remember
EIU?
correctly.
Okay,
Uh,
EIU was a division of like the FBI or something like that. Which they were trying to cover up the trail of what was happening.
uh, e- I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So, what do you think of this EIU company? Do you think that they're pretty nefarious? They're being very mysterious.
Well, yeah, actually, from what I understood, we didn't even end up finding out much about them, did we?
No, I mean, at most we see that we see this one character where he talks to Thomas Mobius, and Mobius tells him a joke about um, EIU people, and he's like, "I'll just see you later, Mister Whatever," and then later we see one of the EIU agents going into the dimensional portal that evidently Rachel has opened from the disc that was left behind, and
Uh,
we see them both disappear.
yeah, so uh, Dr. Mobius's fantasies about Rachel don't end very well because of that.
No, they definitely don't.
Yeah.
Now, I don't get the whole woman that evidently lives with his friend Joseph, but evidently oh, he snuck into Joe's apartment thinking that he would be able to figure out what happened to his friend.
Uh, yeah, the woman seemed pretty clueless about what was going on. So when she saw him, she thought he was a burglar or something, and she hit him in the head. But then they found out what was going on.
Yep, and I swear, her getting all frantic should have been a little bit more frantic to me because um, it seemed like her reaction was a little strange. I don't know why,
Well,
but
I uh, I think it was possibly because the actress maybe didn't manage to portray the emotion of shock properly, but I think it was about that, not about the character.
yeah. So that's my only gripe is that she didn't seem to react very well, and it, this was his first film, so getting anybody to act in any way, shape, or form just to be weird in a film is probably. I mean, you're going about and trying to get your friends to be part of this film, and they don't know what it's going to end up being in the very end. But I actually thought this was relatively pretty decent of a story, and I thought whatever they were eating was definitely somewhat gruesome. The aliens.
Uh, yeah. Uh, well, I'm sorry I had a glitch with my internet connection. Can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
Well, whatever they were eating, the aliens were was somewhat gruesome.
Yeah, as we saw, the man in black who was an alien himself, he ended up eating this specimen from the lab, and it looked quite nasty.
It looked like it was all kinds of colors. Although, although the young girl that evidently was an alien, look how green she turned.
Oh,
Evidently.
oh yeah, that was a pretty nasty scene. It somewhat reminded me of Odd Noggins when the woman melts into yellow goo, but this instead of yellow, it was green, and that kind of made it look a little a little scarier than what we saw in Odd Noggins.
Oh yeah, but in any case, I think the film got its message across that there's something out there, and yet the government is trying to hide it up.
Yeah, it's like people spread conspiracy theories all the time, like the governments might be doing this or that, but we never actually know if they are doing anything or not. But yeah, this movie kind of portrays one such speculation.
Was there any particular? Okay, so Joe's telling us it was shot at the end of '95, the beginning of '96. So yeah, even so, this being a first short film, doing that, at that point in time, that that was still pretty well put together. So, did you
Yeah.
did you like any of the special effects in the film? What do you think?
Well, I pretty much liked the moment when the man in black took his glasses off and we saw these yellow spheres in his eyes, which can be seen on the back cover.
Okay,
This,
to me, those kind of look like ping pong balls, just a little bit.
well, a little bit, yeah, but it was still pretty creatively imagined, if you ask me. And
Well,
when
ladies and gentlemen, if you're asking why we're coughing, we have just eaten some alien gelatin from Dimension of Blood.
yeah,
So I was
yeah.
right. So Joe said that the yellow eyes were made from ping pong balls cut in half. So I was right.
Oh, wait, you are talking to Joe at the same time while
Well,
we're
no,
discussing.
he's actually watching us now. So hey, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
So,
Wow.
but in any case, did you notice any music that was involved with the film that may have been noticeable per se?
Well, actually, funnily enough, this time I noticed a lot of music because here is something I wanted to show, something I have here. This CD called Beauty and the Eyeball. It's a compilation of various instrumental tracks from Joe Sherlock's movies. On the front cover, you can see the lady from Underbelly, but on this CD, you can find music from multiple Joe Sherlock's movies, including Dimension of Blood. And those actually, this compilation was originally sold on an audio cassette, and Joe once sent me the tracks, and I was putting them on CD and analyzing them a bit, so it all sounded familiar while I was watching the movie now.
Okay, okay, that's cool. So, was there any particular scene that you would take from this particular short film, Dimension of? Is there anything else that you would like to take from this film? And I'll go ahead and after you answer, I'll say my favorite scenes and whether I noticed any music or whatnot.
I'm sorry, I had another sound glitch. What did you say?
Well, why don't you let us know if there's anything else that you'd like to say about this film before I share like maybe one of my favorite special effects scenes from here. And
Oh,
go ahead.
well, I would say maybe the most impacting scenes were this one when this girl Annabelle melted into green goo. That was pretty shocking. And regarding the fact that this movie was made quite some time ago, in my opinion, the CG effects in the scene when Rachel was sucked into the other dimension through this static screen portal. It was pretty well done for the time when it was made. I
Well, I'll have to say that one of my favorite scenes from Dimension of Blood was the actual dream sequence that he had of Rachel. For some reason,
oh Oh yeah, and there was this other guy dreaming about the biker chick.
uh, I for some reason I get the feeling that he really wanted to have a relationship with Rachel in some fashion through that dream trip that he was having, but it didn't exactly go the way that we thought it would have. Would it did it?
Well, yeah, because Rachel disappeared in the end, but
Well,
yeah, like at the beginning, yes.
she also like took his heart straight out of his chest in the dream, and she was like, "No, this is touching your heart," or something like that. That
Yeah, that scene somewhat reminded me of The Seekers when uh, Dota ripped someone's heart out, if you remember. Yeah, well, in this movie, when that nightmare happened, I wondered if it was maybe going to impact the further plot somehow, but no, in the end, it was only a nightmare.
Alrighty, moving on to the second short film on that trilogy thing, which is "Monster in My Garage." Is that the name of the title? Correct. Monster in
Uh,
My
uh,
Garage.
Monster in the Garage, yeah, it's this one, and I also have it. Give me a second, please.
Yep.
Uh, I also have Monster in the Garage on this limited edition VHS where it came out combined with another Joe Sherlock short called Zombie Love Slave.
Nice.
Thank you.
I thought that
Yeah.
was some cool cover art. Knowing that that was out there. Now, I imagine that you have the idea to eventually put that on DVD with like your own cover or something like that.
Well, I would have done it if hadn't already had Monster in the Garage on this DVD and Zombie Love Slave on another DVD,
although
so I didn't really have to.
it would be interesting if you put that zombie love slave on something separate.
Well, I already have it on DVD. It's just not right here at hand. But yeah, I got that movie from Joe a while ago.
Cool. Alrighty. So let's dive into this monster that ends up coming from outer space in some way, shape, or form. So apparently, we have John Bowker, uh,
Yeah.
who plays not only evidently he not only plays the monster, he also plays the guy who is putting on this party. Uh,
Uh,
because evidently these two guys are chatting in a VHS store, and they're arguing over what would annoy them better with people and driving, like how would you would how would you react if someone cut in front of you in line? The same respect as if somebody in front of you in line let someone else in line when you were waiting to buy a ticket for a movie, and they went ahead of you because evidently someone saved a spot for them. How would you react to that kind of thing? Well, I personally think that everyone should have their own I don't know, unless they're together, which there are some people that are obviously not. But if there is a place and a time for everyone, I think if I think very much if someone were to skip ahead of me in line, I'd be enraged. I really would be. I mean, it's like wait your turn, buddy.
Well, yeah, in a way, I see why people would be upset, but me personally, I probably wouldn't be so upset because I kind of know what it's like to be in a hurry, and well, it shouldn't be done because it puts other people in the traffic in danger, but as long as nothing has happened and if uh, if I don't almost end up crashing into that person, I'd be like, okay, it could have been worse because I personally am not a great driver, and whenever I drive a car, uh, I just do my best to be as careful as possible. So as long as it's safe, I'm fine.
I hear you. So apparently, there's this party that is supposed to happen, and evidently the guy who's going to be putting it on evidently has been known to be kind of a slob. So
Oh,
because he's got all
uh,
kinds of VHS and this and that laying
oh,
all over the place.
oh yeah. Did you maybe notice when we see all the mess
Yeah,
on the table?
there were a bunch of
There,
John Bowker VHS tapes all over. So,
yeah, and one VHS was of Dimension of Blood, which unfortunately that VHS was sold out long before I discovered Joe Sherlock's movies, so I still haven't found that VHS. I would love to add that one to my collection.
well, who knows? Maybe Joe Sherlock could put it on VHS for you eventually. Oh, okay. So Tom Schafer actually plays the monster in well, IMDb says a little differently, Joe. So I'll have to change that.
Uh,
So evidently, Tom Schafer plays the monster in the Monster in My Garage short film.
oh,
It's not John Bowker. So
John Walker.
John
Yeah.
Bowker plays the guy who runs the party, and it seems like he's always trying to get his wife or whatever it is that he's with alone. But there are some other people who are trying to get alone in the house, and there are people who end up alone in the house. And uh, Earlier before the party, something knocks some stuff over in the garage, and he doesn't figure out exactly what it is. But then we get kind of a dreamlike sequence. What happens in that dreamlike sequence when Bowker's character is asleep?
uh, he gets attacked from what I remember. It's even on the cover.
So he gets attacked while he's dreaming.
uh, yeah, but it doesn't really happen. The deaths happen later on when the
Well,
party begins, and yes.
yeah, it appears that whatever he was dreaming was actually on the television. It was evidently an episode on the television that evidently uh, there was something about uh, meanwhile in space, and then you
Oh
see all these
yeah.
And then you see all these creatures, and you can obviously tell at least one of them is a character from Star Wars.
Yeah, well, one interesting thing about that scene, well, at first it somewhat confused me, but then I realized it was just a movie that Steve was watching. But one interesting thing is that in this movie you can see this green alien who ends up saving the day, the one mentioned as the alien in the credits. So you can see that one in the movie watched by Steve, which is supposed to be only a movie, but then that same alien appears to them to save the people from the monster in the garage, and it kind of makes us wonder if the movie really was just a movie or maybe had something to do with what was going on.
Well, to me, it was like just another cut of the film made to represent something else. I mean that is purely an editing technique where you can take just a little bit of a film and then splice it to mean something else. Like you said, the creature, the alien, was actually trying to save the people from the monster in the garage. So um, here is the same thing. You know, you got the green alien that was from space, and he evidently realized that this monster had actually done something horrible. So what he did with his gun was actually brilliant. He was able to rewind everything and
Yeah.
unkill everyone. Wasn't that kind of cool?
Yes, I actually found that pretty cool because it usually doesn't happen in horror movies, especially the ones about monsters killing people. So when
And I,
someone is killed, they are usually dead for good. So this was a really cool and surprising
and
turn
I
of
get
events.
I get a kick that Joe Sherlock is actually the guy who ends up interrupting the couple because they had evidently had run out of beer or something like that. Evidently, he's trying to get drunk, and then of course he's also the first one who gets eaten.
Yeah, I actually noticed that for some reason, when Joe plays a character in his own movies, he often gets his own character killed off for some reason.
Well, and sometimes he's unrecognizable. I mean, because of how young he is, you don't, and then you're like, wait, is that Joe?
Well, well, actually, yeah. Well, okay, in Master in the Garage, I did recognize him, but in Dimension of Blood, I didn't immediately realize that this man in black was played by Joe himself. Then, when
Yeah,
I read it in
that's
the
one
credits, I was like,
that
"What? That's
that's one
him."
that's one thing I did. I mean, that was because he had no goatee, so he was just kind of like this nondescript dude, you know. He he definitely surprised me in
Yeah,
there. Glad that you mentioned that because I had totally forgotten that that was Joe.
Well, yeah, like I said, in most movies, I do recognize his younger self too because let me think. The first time the first movie I watched where he appeared was Abomination the Evil Maker too, but he had a very short role in that one. Then I saw him in Bloodsucking Redneck Vampires, but he also had a short role there. But I also watched Dreamwalkers, where he had a pretty significant role, and he was quite young there. So I usually do recognize him, but in Dimension of Blood, I originally didn't.
Well, he was also somewhat in the next short film, which we will be getting to in a moment. But
Yeah.
what did you think about the special effects in Monster in My Garage? I actually kind of liked the comic book intro to
Oh,
this short film because you got the comic book title card for the title of the short film in comic book form in motion picture comic.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool effect, and I also liked the motion of the monster because I mean you can see it's actually a prop, but they managed to make it look like it's moving on its own, and that was pretty well done.
And then let's see. I I like to think that for some reason the scene where and I've always said this that I think that Joe, whenever he goes and casts some of his roles, he ends up picking some of the thicker people that are out there. So you got two thicker looking people, a man and a woman, who end up going into the garage to make out, and um, and she's making out with dude, which evidently dude was in the comic book shop as well, talking about coming to the party, and he gets his head bitten off, and she comes in and she screams her freaking head off. So I guess she's the scream queen in the whole thing. That was that was a good scream. That was a good scream, I think, because you didn't expect
Well,
it.
yeah.
She came in and she paused like she was getting ready to scream, and then all of a sudden she was like, "Ah!" And everybody looked towards her.
Yeah, and then she just dropped dead, if I remember correctly.
Well, she wasn't quite dead because she actually woke up once and looked at the green alien that came and saved everyone from the monster, and
Oh,
which rewound everything anyways back to being normal anyways because you saw the thick guy come back with his head intact.
uh, yeah.
But it was a fun little short film to be honest, and I guess I got a kick out of some of the people dancing. I mean, you saw Rob Miracle in there talking to some guys on the side, which often he works in the special effects parts of some of his films, and yeah. What did you think about the music behind this particular short film?
Well, it was pretty interesting actually. One thing I find pretty impressive about these movies is that I know, at least from what I remember, Joe telling me, all the music he included in these movies. He made it himself. I think he was playing guitar or something like that. So like he really recorded himself playing an instrument, and then he used that music in his movies. That was pretty interesting.
Well, it shows the fact that he can get creative. I mean, normally anyone can uh, put together a beat with a drum machine, and then you just got to kind of create music around that. So I give him credit for being able to create something to be in the background of some of his films. Some of them have been unique, and I remember them days of trying to create some stuff for my own band. So in any case,
Yeah, let me see if there is.
moving.
I'm sorry, I had. Uh,
Yeah.
oh yes, I was going to say I had another sound. Understand what you said?
Oh, well, I was going to say let's move on to Crimson Heather, um,
Oh,
which this one was filmed in 1999, 2000, and this one had Shannon Barksdale playing Heather Desire,
oh yeah.
and one thing I've noticed is that in a lot of his short show films, uh, okay, so he actually had a drum set in garage and several layers of keyboards added. Uh, okay, so you actually old schooled it. Okay. Well, I know I've worked with drum machines before, and know that keyboards can be attached with MIDI instruments and stuff like that. So um, I thought that maybe you might have had something to do that way, because I know there are many different ways you can record music pre-digital. So in
Well,
any
I
case,
personally don't think I would be able to do that on my own. So that was pretty good.
so in any case, so I noticed that Joe uses a lot of shower scenes for some of his women, where in this particular film it begins with a shower scene, and of course she's this young lady is getting ready to go out for the evening when suddenly she's attacked by um
Uh, a vampire hunter.
exactly. So why don't you tell me a little bit of what's going on, since you obviously know this character.
So Heather gets attacked by this vampire hunter played by Holly Thornhill. From what I understood, there is some backstory that the hunter says during the encounter. So apparently, a while ago, her, I don't know, husband or fiance was killed by Heather, and now this woman is seeking revenge.
But she doesn't exactly know that this is the husband. So when she goes out to this party, she picks him and takes him home, and he thinks that he kills her. Well, him and his chick, they go on their way, stop at some wayside motel, and what happens then?
Yeah, then Heather shows up and we find out she wasn't really killed, which, well, in a way we could have seen it coming because the movie is called Crimson Heather, so she is the main character and she cannot disappear just like that. So it turns out when Wendy, Jack's girlfriend, when she stabbed Heather with a stake, she missed her heart. So Heather only passed out, but she survived, and now she comes back to take revenge and get rid of Jack. So that's what happens.
Well, and of course we get that conversation with him and his girl. Well, why do you keep on going and doing this? Isn't enough enough? Can't you just stop at one? And he's like, I don't know what's driving me, babe. We've gone over this plenty of times. It's like I'm driven by some invisible force or some shit. And of course, they get to the hotel, and I like what she comes out and says. Okay, Holly the
Yeah,
vampire
well,
was already. Holly the vampire's husband has already been killed by Heather. That is why Holly hunts her down. Okay, Jack is an unrelated character to Holly, but they are both
Yeah,
motivated
they're
by having
yeah, they're
lost a
not.
loved one to a vampire. That is a good point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, both of them lost their loved one to Heather in particular, from what I understood. And yeah, one thing I wanted to say about Holly's character, it was pretty interesting how the whole thing was performed. I mean, the woman came pretty well equipped. She had this silver necklace that was supposed to protect her from getting beaten, and she had holy water, and she tied Heather up, and when she did all that, it looked like Heather had nowhere left to go. But
Correct,
then,
but somehow she was able to overpower her with that old vampire magneticness that often times Brazil's main protagonist in their films from At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. He even had something to do with his eyes, where he could control someone, or Bela Lugosi could, with his eyes, control um, as Dracula. So that being able to control someone is a vampire quality that some vampires have and some don't. to
oh,
be able to tell her to untie her and uh, make her do what she was able to do. That's a strong control over her. And oftentimes, when you're able to do that, normally it's because the person's mind is either weak or their guard is down.
well, I when I watched Crimson Heather, I assumed what she performed on Holly's character was just hypnosis. So I thought that was all. And when she got hypnotized, she had no control over what she was doing, and
No, and then it was done for her. It was over. Because then she got bitten and sucked dry. Of course, later after she ended up um, killing Jack, and then ultimately killing the girlfriend there, she ended up taking the hotel room, and I think the landlord was played by Joe Sherlock there.
yes.
He kept wanting to come in and have her sign some papers, or be nosy, as it were. So, what do you think about his character there?
Uh, well, he was a man you can pretty much understand. I mean, if a sexy woman like Heather suddenly moved in, you would want to see her too, wouldn't you?
I agree. She was pretty sexy.
Oh yeah.
Ultimately, she went out, or how did she end up meeting that other chick? Was she at a bar? Yeah, she was at a bar, and she started to talk to her, or
Well,
she came to the door first.
Yeah. So at first, when Ginger knocked on the door, Heather thought it was Frank, Joe's character, but then it turned out it was Ginger, a neighbor who just wanted to help her. She wanted to help Heather with her stuff, as she is just moving in and so on. And yeah, then they went to the bar.
Yep,
And
and that's when she told the one girl told her that she had cancer and that she wouldn't mind living forever. And in a situation like that, when someone has no choice but to die, and being one so young, I think Crimson Heather's character just kind of felt sorry for her. So when she brought her back, and um, uh,
uh,
Gerald Sherlock's character just kept getting in the way. Uh, uh, she had no choice but to show her what kind of a monster she really was, and ask her the question: "Are you really ready for immortality?" And
uh,
she was like, "Yes, yes." And of course, in the end, you hear them both chuckling or laughing,
uh,
sort of creepily in the end.
yeah, well, I have to say I really liked this part about Ginger. Well, you probably think it's only because she was played by Felicia Pandolfi, and you know how much I like her, but it's not only about that, but this part actually gives some pretty good character development to Heather. I mean, until then, we mostly see her kill people. Like we heard she killed someone's boyfriend, girlfriend, then she killed the female vampire hunter. She killed Jack. She killed some people in the bar and so on. But then we find out that there is also a good side to her because she uses her power to give Ginger eternal life to save her from cancer. Mm.
Yep, and that shows a more human quality to be able to want to help in some way, shape, or form. I mean, some vampires get very lonely in their lifestyles, and so I imagine inviting her into the kosher world of a vampire. At least once she was turned, it seemed like she enjoyed being undead, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and one interesting thing I wanted to say is I don't know if you have heard, but there was another version of Crimson Heather before this one that we are discussing now, when this whole part with Joe Sherlock's character and Felicia's character wasn't there at all. It ended with Heather killing Jack and saying, "I have to move." And
So that was
that was,
Felicia Pandolfi at the end there.
yes, she played Ginger.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so that whole part with Heather in another town, it wasn't there in the first version, which was, from what I remember, it was released on VHS by Draculina magazines, but it was very difficult to track down. However, Joe made a DVD copy for me, which I have right here. I designed the cover for it.
Nice.
Uh, Thank you. It's a pretty cool item in my collection. The editing is different in this part. That's story-wise the same as what we saw here. Like I said, it was differently edited, and it has some extras, some bloopers and behind the scenes, which we don't get on this DVD. So I'm pretty happy I was able to add this to my collection as well.
Very cool. So,
Thank you.
what did you think about the special effects behind Crimson Heather?
Phew, well, they were pretty cool. I liked the effects of blood flowing after Heather bites someone. That was pretty well done, and well, it this may not be a special effect, but I liked all the ornaments in Heather's apartment, the candles and all the things like that. It looked pretty nice.
Okay. I actually
Uh,
thought that the same thing. That some of the candles looked nice in some of the areas. Um, there were moments of lagness when she was talking at the parties. Um, just a little bit. Like I don't think that as much talking was needed. But I guess to ensure that there was some time spent at these locations, I see why these were left in there. So, but if I were to look at it and see what could be cut, that some of that is what I would cut.
well, maybe, but I didn't mind it the way it was. I mean, all the three movies are pretty short anyway, so I was fine with that.
So, did you have a favorite scene from this particular short film?
Well, I would say it's probably when Heather turns Ginger into a vampire for reasons I mentioned before. And like I said, it gives some.
Also, not to mention, Miss Pandolfini is the love of your life.
Something like that. Yeah, and when Heather beat her and turned her into a vampire, well, I have to say it was a pretty sexy sight.
As far as special effects, I guess there weren't entirely a lot of them, to be honest. But if I had to choose a favorite scene, or what I thought was cool is when she came out of a bedroom and told the girlfriend that, hey, I just killed your lover, boy, or something like that. Um, and
Oh,
yeah, and then
oh yeah.
didn't she ultimately like bite her neck too?
No, she left her alive. Heather walked away, and we just saw Wendy, Jack's girlfriend, walk in, and we heard her scream in terror when she saw Jack dead. Uh,
Yep.
and that was it. And one interesting thing in that scene is we can see the room and where they were. We had number 13, the unlucky number.
Yep. The unlucky 13. Well, it was unlucky for him to be in that room for some reason.
Uh,
At least
yeah, well,
at least it didn't have 666 on the door.
Oh, oh, that would be interesting.
But in any case, moving on. So, um, did you happen to notice any music uh, per se from this particular film? I think it was more. It seemed more like elevator music for some reason to me.
Uh, well, in this movie there is a song I really like a lot called "Heather in Leather," which we can hear after the shower scene when Heather is getting dressed. It's a pretty cool song.
Okay. Um,
Uh,
do you know whether it was by someone in particular or? Um,
uh, I think Joe made that song, if I remember correctly. I think
okay.
he was in a band when they made it, but I can't remember what it was called. Maybe Roadkill or Scarp Headed or something like that.
Okay. So, in any case, moving on to a feature that was filmed in 2003, and
Yeah.
it was called Underbelly, and this is directed by Joe Sherlock.
Yes.
And let me just say what IMDb says about this film before we
Uh,
go on
okay.
here. I see you have several copies.
Well, I have this same DVD that you have, and I managed to obtain a VHS copy, and I have this soundtrack CD which I showed before, which, well, it contains music from multiple movies, but a lot of it is from Underbelly, so I decided to bring it out and show it in this conversation.
Okay. So in this twist-filled erotic thriller, a college student in search of a professor's missing niece becomes entangled with the small town's criminal underbelly, including sexy prostitutes, vile gangsters, and thuggish hitmen. Hot women appear at every turn, just not the one he's looking for. Even with the help of a sexy hooker, will he live long enough to find out what really is going on?
Uh, yeah. Uh, well, one interesting thing I would like to say about this movie is it's quite different from the majority of other Joe's movies I have seen. I mean, it's possibly the most serious and also the most realistic one of them all. I mean, all we see is. I mean, it takes place in a world like ours with nothing paranormal going on, no extreme gore or anything. Just uh, an erotic thriller, crime story, and that's, like I said, pretty different from what Joe Sherlock usually does. So it was pretty interesting to see how he handled working on a story like this one.
I know it wanted to be dark, but I felt like it started off light. To be honest, with the college kid just talking nonchalantly that he was just what's the name of the college kid, by the way?
What is whose name?
The name of the college kid.
Oh, the name was Tom.
Okay, so
It's
Tom
interesting. Tom,
was played by Tom Schaefer.
yeah, actually, I think in most movies he played, in his name was Tom. That was pretty fun.
But in any case, so we have Tom, who evidently had recently been in a car crash, lost his own vehicle, comes to this professor who evidently had advertised that he could offer a car to someone for some money as long as they got it to you know his niece, but he didn't know the entire story until he talks to the professor.
Yeah.
So he goes and talks to the professor. Well, this professor tells him, "Hey, so I've got this niece. She's somewhere in Albany. I need you to go down there and give her this car in this picture. And here's the money for it. Here's the keys, and I let you go with my blessing, kind of thing." So, but that whole scene there, it seemed like I don't know. It seemed like either one of them had a little bit trouble saying their dialogue, just a little bit, because it seemed like they were saying it slowly. So maybe that's just me. But he offers him some cookies. Who offers anyone cookies? Unless there's some old man, or something like that. He was just a younger guy.
Well, from what I understood, this professor, he didn't really have any bad intentions. He didn't really know what was going to happen, did he? Unless I misunderstood something.
Well, no, I don't think that he had any bad intentions, but I do think that somehow this guy was related to Rob Miracle's character Kel.
Yeah, they were brothers.
So obviously there was no connection to me up until he said that this whole college thing was a ruse later on. But we'll get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know us by now, we're going to spoil the shit out of these films. So,
Oh yeah, just like we have from the other three.
but in any case, so who in their right mind would hire someone to take a car to some place who had just gotten in an accident, and they're telling them it was their fault? Just got in an accident. He's got a cane and everything. He obviously lost his vehicle for some reason, and it was his fault that he lost it. So that to me was like the first kicker. Why would you hire someone who evidently got in a really bad accident?
Well, yeah, that's one thing, and also you would normally expect someone to entrust such a job to someone really trustworthy. I mean, as far as the professor knew, Tom could have just taken the car and disappeared. I mean, the car was probably worth more than the professor was going to pay him. So.
Oh yeah, so it was a weird situation, anyways. So he gets down to Albany, and he what the hell opens up the door? He drives down, and he knocks on the door, and there's this blonde babe that opens up the door.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
She
the
goes by
lovely
the name
Heather
of
Storm.
Heather Storm, and she's basically wearing next to nothing. And then, of course, she invites him inside, and she's starting to make out with dude. And he gets all cold. He gets all business-like, and is on. He's a man on a mission, so he's not giving in to nothing. He's looking for this dude's daughter, and I don't know. Would you dismiss her like that, or would you continue to find who you were looking for? Would you just let things happen and let her take advantage of you first, or would you uh, continue on your mission?
Well, well, maybe I would be a little confused. Maybe I would want to find out what her agenda is really all about, but I probably wouldn't just turn her down so firmly like he did.
Well, if I was single and I was a guy that was taking care of trying to find this dame, I kind of James Bonded a little bit and probably sleep with the girl, and then figure out what the hell her angle was, while figuring out
Yeah.
the angles
No.
of the bedroom just a little bit more. But I'm not single, so it's not going to happen. But
Well, she was pretty good looking, probably one of the sexiest women in Joe Sherlock's movies.
okay, so evidently his band was called Scarp. He did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mispronounced it earlier. I'm sorry.
It's fine. So in any
Oh,
case,
hi, Joe.
yeah, it was by his band at the time. So that Heather and Leather song. So in any case, but moving on. So what do you think about Heather's character here?
Well, from what I understood, we didn't end up finding out much about her, like how.
Well, I found out that her name was Melissa afterwards, looking it up on
Yes.
IMDb.
Uh, yeah, well, she only, from what I remember, she tells Tom that the person he is looking for doesn't live there anymore. But after that scene, she doesn't appear again. So, as far as
In fact,
as far as I,
she pretty much because she thinks he's a nice guy and everything. I think that's the thing. Every one of these girls thinks he's just a nice guy. So um, they pretty much tell him that she's dead, and he doesn't believe it, of course. So he keeps on looking. he
well,
he needs
I
to know
think,
for sure.
I think. I think Melissa didn't quite say that the
No,
woman was dead.
she that's right. She didn't say anything to him, but see, the next chick was some chick in an alley, correct? And that was when the goons wanted to take the keys.
Oh, yeah. Well, did that woman appear before Pamela? I'm not sure. No.
Yeah, that's right. He goes over to this bar, and he ends up meeting Pamela, who is played by Tamara Redmond, who is this Asian chick who takes and says that she's got this room for him if he wants it, and then so he goes up and he goes in the room, and she starts taking her clothes off once she comes in, and he's talking about well, he'll pay for the room. How's $50 sound? And she's like, well, $50 pays for the room and some company. And that's when he's like, I'll just take the room, thank you. And then he puts her clothes back on. Of course, I would not have done that if I was a single man. I probably would have taken the company as well as the room. So if I was offered that, I would just not you know not accept it like he did. That was just like pure unmanlyship, there, man. I mean, if offered, when you're a college kid and you're offered sex, don't turn it down.
Well, yeah,
At least have some protection or some shit. But I mean, if you look like one of those guys who will never get laid ever in their life, and yet it's offered to you, just say yes.
well, yeah, unless maybe the character was asexual or something.
Another thing is Tom's character. Doesn't he look a little old to be in college?
Yes, actually, I noticed that.
So, anyways, moving on. So he denies or doesn't say yes to company, and so she goes down and talks to Jack, who evidently owns every bitch in town. No offense.
Yeah.
Every whore in town, every streetwalker in town. I take back bitch. Okay, I don't know whether they are. So, but in any case, Jack says stay there. I'll be there momentarily. And she's like, oh wait, he's leaving. I didn't say anything for him to leave. Oh, don't get mad at me. So he gets there and he's like, it's cool, baby. So evidently they sleep together. And then, of course, the college kid, ends up somehow running into another street walker, and she almost tells him that she's that the woman he's looking for is dead, but she doesn't quite get there either. But she tells him a little bit more, and she tells him to stay away and walk away from the situation. And that's that. But then these two goons come along and they take the keys and they beat him up, and that's when he ends up somehow running into Pamela somehow, and Pamela tells him, tells him what actually happens, sort of, basically, that she was killed, and she owed some money. Correct?
Yeah, like because Tom is trying to find Susie and so on. Jack thinks that Tom is suspecting something and he wants him dead, but Pamela knows that Tom really doesn't know anything, and now she wants to save him because she knows that Jack wants to kill him. So. And also there is this scene when Jack talks to her in a really abusive way and really slaps her and so on, and that makes her decide to turn against him.
Yeah, for sure. And he also that's she sees him actually like getting turned on by this other chick, and that's when she gets kind of grossed out and walks out and ends up running into a college kid, and that's when she makes the decision to run away with the college kid once she told him, and she goes back, and evidently dude finds out, knocks college kid out. And that's when Rob Miracle's character Kel comes in, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of here, Pamela. You won't be want to be around." when you see this bike down, you're going to see brains all over the freaking floor like no tomorrow. So hit the hay. So he goes all John Wayne on her just a little bit. Well, look at here, Pilgrim. But well, that's just a little bit of humor. In any case, moving on. So apparently, them two go off, and that's when we realize that I think Joe Sherlock is the guy who played the man in the glasses, isn't he?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So he comes around and kills Cal, smoking a cigar, and that's when we see both horror and college kid riding off into the sunset.
Uh, yeah. So Joe's character stays with the woman played by Sherlock, who was making out with Jack earlier.
So, what do we think about each of these characters? What do you think about the ladies and the way that their relationship is with Jack, so to speak?
Well, most of these characters have fairly short appearances, and maybe we could have found out a little more about them than we did, but it was still it was still pretty good. So they all made a part of the story, which led to Tom. Well, he maybe he didn't manage to do what he was sent to do, but at least he found a girlfriend in the end, so it was kind of a happy ending for him. But one thing that, yeah, one thing that kind of confused me is why did Joe Sherlock's character kill Cal in the end?
Well, to well, didn't you realize that that other chick who evidently was dancing for Jack, that she was in on a plan to evidently kill him?
She ended up leaving with Joe's character in the
Yeah,
car.
yeah. I got the feeling like she had her own plan going on there, like they had figured out the whole thing, and she pretty much maybe thought that she was going to kill him. Well, they got a chance to kill the action that was going to take over the action in town. So I think in order to kill two birds with one stone, they let the rest of it go on.
Well, maybe.
It's very possible that there was an ulterior motive behind her because she was laughing for some reason that she was with dude, and maybe because he was the henchman, that's why he did so. But he ran off with the girl.
Maybe.
But in any case, did you have a particularly favorite scene from this film?
Oh, well, maybe Heather Storm's scene because she really looked nice.
Okay.
And yours?
Trying to think. I guess I got a kick. I'm more attracted if I were attracted to anyone. I'm more attracted to Pamela's character. So
Oh, well, she was nice too.
even though though she was boinking Jack, I could pretty much like block out Jack and like look at her. So um,
Yeah,
and she was pretty cute. I mean, she is in a homely kind of way. So um,
yeah, she was also in The Seekers, if you remember.
I remember that. So, um, but I liked her in there too, dressed up in that pretty dress that she had on. So I think it was like a silver sequin type number in there. So I think.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I guess what did you think about the music?
Well, it was pretty. It was pretty good. Also, most of it, if not all of it, was done by Joe Sherlock, from what I know. And yeah, like I mentioned before, actually, while I was watching this movie, although it sounded familiar because of this CD, which I mentioned already. Uh, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay,
Mm,
cool.
Yeah, there is a lot of tracks from Underbelly on this one. Yeah, like 10 or 11 tracks.
Okay, and evidently there was additional music on this particular
Oh,
film by Seasons of the Wolf,
oh, oh yeah, the
a
ending
band from
credits
Florida.
song was. Yeah, I know Seasons of the Wolf. I discovered them in The Seekers, where they also they made a lot of music for that movie, and I liked it a lot, especially their song in the ending credits of that movie called "The Victim of Darkness." If you maybe know it.
Nice. Well, in any case, was there anything else that you wanted to say about any of these films uh, that we have talked about before we go on?
Well, I would like to show something. I have this rare VHS tape containing another Joe Sherlock movie called Last of the Vampire Hookers and Crimson Heather. I think aside of the Draculina VHS, which I mentioned before, this is probably the first VHS where Crimson Heather was released, and that's the version we watched on the DVD. And by the time I discovered Joe Sherlock's movies, this tape was, I think, already sold out. But Joe happened to have a few spare copies, and he sold one to me, and I was pretty happy to add it to my collection.
Nice. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Anything else?
Thank you. Uh, well, yeah, I wanted to say, did you maybe notice that Pamela, Tara Redwood's character in Underbelly, she was uh, in the movie she had sex with Jack, Bob Ollie's character, the same one who played her husband in The Seekers.
I noticed that.
That was.
I noticed that. So maybe there might have been some chemistry, actor and actress wise, which is why Joe Sherlock used them to again here. So unless they um, may have had real life relationships in real life, I don't know. So, um, but
I don't know.
but it is curious that them two are kind of together again. But in any case, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. but definitely
Oh,
check these films out. Like I said, you can find both of these films. One is the triple feature of what does it say on it? Joe's Garage.
uh,
Uh,
they crawled from Joe's garage. I think that's what it says. Yeah,
Correct. So that
yeah.
is that involves Dimension of Blood, Monster in the Garage, and Crimson Heather, and then of course
Uh,
you can get
yeah,
Underbelly,
yeah.
and you can buy them from astronaut.com, or I think you can now buy them from. Well, you can't buy the trilogy from Sterling, but you can certainly buy Underbelly from David Sterling as well. It has a slightly different cover, but you can still buy it from Sterling. So definitely check that out
Indeed,
if you get a chance.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, you definitely should.
but in any case, I think that's all the time that we have for today. And I think you should definitely check these films out if you have not. At least give them a one-time watch. They're not bad for shot-on-video films. So you don't have to take our words for anything. You can get your own opinion of these films and let us know down in the comments what you thought of them. So we just shoot the shit just for the hell of it, and it's because of our love of these films that we go on and discuss them bit by bit, and making me watch these. It makes me watch what's in my collection. So you know, many of these I know that Boris has already seen, but I didn't get a chance to watch these while I collected them. So this gives me time to sit down and watch these, and gives me a reason for me to really study them for what they are. So in any case,
Yeah, I have a few movies in my collection that I haven't watched yet. Well, uh, not Joe Sherlock's movies, I have seen them all, but otherwise, yeah, I have some movies I haven't watched yet. But you have many more movies, so you probably have more that you haven't watched.
well, we will definitely be going on about more films as we go on, and I've shared with you some of mine just to get you out of your box and out of your norm of your normal films that you're used to watching. I just think about the most craziest ones I've seen, and then share them with you, and then we go on about them. So it's kind of cool, but.
Well, I have seen some crazy movies, but yeah, some of those that you have shared with me are pretty crazy too.
So, in any case, ladies and gentlemen, that this has been another cool episode of Delusions of Grandeur. We're definitely going to go on about some more crazy films, possibly next week, but hopefully we both will be better by next week. I'm glad we were able to go on. I know you heard both of us coughing, maybe one coughing because the other saw the other one was, but
Uh, yeah, I I have been coughing a lot these days. I have flu, so I'm sorry about that.
and I apologize too because I know I'm not in the most pristine of health right now. So, but I love to go on about these movies and share them with you, so, and I'm sure Boris does too. So,
Yeah,
thank you, ladies.
definitely.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy wherever you are. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank John. If you are still with us, thank you for watching this conversation. It means a lot to me.
Most definitely. Good night, everyone.
Good
Oh,
night.
not a problem, Joe. You have a good one.